The morning sun painted the Nevada desert in shades of gold and red. Deep beneath the sand, in a facility that did not exist on any map, Colonel Sarah Chen stood before the most advanced aircraft humanity had ever built. The F-47 Prometheus gleamed under the harsh lights of the underground hangar. Its hull seemed to shift colors as Chen walked around it, like oil on water. The aircraft looked nothing like the fighters of old, no sharp edges or aggressive angles. Instead, it flowed like liquid metal, frozen in motion. Beautiful, isn't she? Dr. Marcus Webb approached from behind, his coffee mug steaming in the cool air. Webb had been working on this project for 7 years. His hair had gone gray during that time, but his eyes still sparkled with the excitement of discovery. Chen nodded, running her hand along the smooth surface. It feels warm. That's the metamaterial coating. It's alive, in a sense. Responds to pressure, temperature, even electromagnetic fields. Webb set down his coffee and pulled out a tablet. Want to see the real magic? They walked to the rear of the aircraft where the engine intakes gaped like hungry mouths. Webb touched his tablet, and panels slid open to reveal the most complex piece of technology Chen had ever seen. Hybrid propulsion system, Webb explained. We took their quantum field manipulator technology and married it to our own fusion ramjet design. The aliens have been using these field manipulators for 800 years, but they never thought to combine them with chemical propulsion. Chen frowned. Why not? Because they're too smart. Webb grinned. Each species in the Federation has their specialty. The Zephyrians make the fastest ships. The Crystalline Consortium builds the best computers. The Void Walkers craft materials we can barely understand. They've been perfecting their individual technologies for millennia. And us? We're the mongrels. We take a little from here, a little from there, and smash it all together until something works. Webb's grin widened. Sometimes being crude and desperate is exactly what you need. Chen understood. Humanity had joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago. It should have been the greatest moment in human history. Instead, it had been humbling. Every other species was older, wiser, more advanced. Humans were treated like children who had just learned to walk. At every Federation gathering, the same pattern repeated. The Zephyrian ambassador would speak of their latest interceptor, capable of Mach 47 inches atmosphere. The other species would nod respectfully. Then the human representative would present their latest fighter, usually topping out around Mach 12, and the aliens would smile politely, not mockery. That would have been easier to bear. Just the kind of patient tolerance adults showed to children playing dress-up. The Centennial Speed Trials start next month, Chen said. Webb nodded. Every species will show off their fastest atmospheric craft. Same as always. The Zephyrians will win, just like they have for the past 8 centuries. What if they don't? Then everything changes. Webb's voice grew serious. The Federation isn't just about trade and diplomacy, Sarah. It's about order. Everyone knows their place. The Zephyrians are the speed demons. The Crystallines handle data. The Void Walkers make impossible materials. And humans? We're the newcomers who try hard but never quite measure up. Exactly. But what happens when the newcomer suddenly leaps ahead of everyone else? Chen looked at the F-47 again. In the harsh fluorescent light, it seemed almost predatory. We find out. The briefing room filled slowly over the next hour. General Morrison arrived first, followed by the engineering team, then the politicians. Secretary of Defense Janet Reeves looked tired. The pressure from the Federation Council had been mounting for weeks. Status report, Morrison said without preamble. Webb stood, activating the wall display. Technical specifications filled the screen, but Chen's attention focused on one number. Maximum atmospheric velocity. Classified. All systems tested and functional, Webb reported. Metamaterial hull handles heat dispersal better than projected. Inertial dampening system exceeds design parameters. Quantum fusion hybrid shows resonance patterns we didn't expect. Resonance patterns? Reeves leaned forward. The alien technology assumes perfect conditions, smooth energy flow, predictable output. But our fusion system is messier. It creates fluctuations, variations in power delivery. Instead of canceling out, the fluctuations amplify the quantum field effect. Chen translated, "It goes faster than it should, much faster." Webb confirmed, "Our simulations suggest speeds that should be impossible for atmospheric flight." Morrison studied the data. Test flight approval? All safety protocols met. Colonel Chen has logged more hours in experimental aircraft than anyone in the service. If anyone can handle the F-47, it's her. Chen felt the familiar mix of excitement and terror that came before every test flight. But this time was different. This time, humanity might finally prove they belonged among the stars. Political considerations? Morrison turned to Reeves. The Secretary of Defense sighed. "The Federation Council is watching. They expect our usual performance at the trials. Good effort, respectable showing, but nothing threatening to the established order. And if we exceed expectations, then we deal with the consequences." Reeves stood. "The President has authorized this program at the highest levels. Whatever happens, we stand behind it." The meeting broke up, but Chen remained in the briefing room, staring at the technical specifications. Somewhere in those numbers lay the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. Webb approached as the room emptied. "Second thoughts?" "No." Chen's voice was steady. "I've been flying experimental aircraft my entire career. I've pushed jets through barriers that killed better pilots than me. But this is different. This could change everything. For all of us." Webb nodded. "The Zephyrians have held the speed record for 800 years. Their whole culture is built around being the fastest. What happens to them if a human pilot in a cobbled-together fighter suddenly makes their best interceptor look slow?" Chen considered this. In human terms, 800 years was ancient history. For the Zephyrians, it was recent memory. Their identity, their place in the Federation hierarchy, all of it rested on their technological superiority. "We'll find out tomorrow," she said finally. As they walked back to the hangar, Chen thought about the weight of expectation. Not just from her superiors, but from every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered if they belonged there. Tomorrow, one way or another, they would have their answer. The F-47 waited in the darkness, its metamaterial hull pulsing softly with stored energy, ready to carry humanity's dreams beyond the edge of possibility. Dawn broke over the Pacific as Chen climbed into the F-47's cockpit. The aircraft sat on a floating platform 50 miles from the nearest land, surrounded by nothing but ocean. If something went wrong, there would be nowhere to run. The cockpit felt familiar yet alien. Standard human controls mixed with technology that hummed with barely contained power. Chen ran through her pre-flight checklist, each item checked and double-checked by ground control. "Prometheus, this is control. All systems green. Weather is clear. Test range is empty for 300 miles in all directions." Chen adjusted her helmet and felt the aircraft systems sync with her neural interface. Data flowed across her vision. Speed, altitude, engine temperature, quantum field stability. The last reading made her pause. In all her years of flying, she had never seen a control labeled quantum field stability. "Control, this is Prometheus. All systems showing nominal. Ready for takeoff sequence. Copy that, Prometheus. You are cleared for takeoff. Test profile Alpha. Take it easy on the first run." The F-47 lifted off the platform with barely a whisper. Unlike the roar of traditional jet engines, the hybrid system produced only a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Chen guided the aircraft up through the morning sky, feeling its responsiveness through her hands and feet. At 10,000 feet, she engaged the first stage of the propulsion system. The fusion ramjet ignited with a smooth surge of power. The F-47 leaped forward, pressing Chen back into her seat, despite the inertial dampening system. "Mach 5 and climbing," she reported. "Copy, Prometheus. All readings nominal." The speed climbed steadily. Mach 10. Then 15. then 20. At Mach 25, Chen was already flying faster than any human had ever flown in atmosphere. The aircraft felt solid beneath her, the metamaterial hull rippling as it adapted to the increasing heat and pressure. Mach 30. Control. This is already beyond our best previous performance. Confirmed, Prometheus. You're making history up there. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when she activated the quantum field manipulator. She checked the power readings one more time, then reached for the control that would change everything. Control. Requesting permission to engage quantum systems. A pause. Permission granted, Prometheus. All monitoring stations are active. We're recording everything. 2. Chen flipped the switch. The change was immediate and overwhelming. The F-47 didn't just accelerate. It transformed. The gentle hum of the engines became a deep resonance that Chen felt in her bones. Outside, the air itself seemed to bend around the aircraft as the quantum field took hold. Mach 35. Mach 40. The Zephyrian record of Mach 47 approached rapidly. Control, I'm approaching the galactic record. Copy, Prometheus. All systems still nominal. You're cleared to continue. Mach 47 came and went so quickly, Chen almost missed it. The F-47 showed no signs of strain. If anything, it seemed to be gathering strength. Mach 50 control. We just broke the galactic atmospheric speed record. Static filled her earpiece. When Control's voice returned, it was tight with disbelief. Confirm that. Prometheus. Did you say Mach 50? Confirmed. Mach 50 and still accelerating. This was the moment Webb had predicted. The fusion ramjet's chaotic energy output wasn't fighting the quantum field, it was amplifying it. The two systems, designed by different species, separated by millions of light-years, were working together in perfect harmony. Mach 60. The aircraft's hull began to glow as the metamaterial coating absorbed and redirected the tremendous heat. Chen watched the temperature readings climb toward red. But the hull held. Prometheus. We're seeing some unusual readings down here. Are you experiencing any control problems? Chen flexed her hands on the control stick. The F-47 responded perfectly to her touch, despite flying at speeds that should have torn any aircraft apart. Negative. Control. Everything feels solid up here. Mach 70. The inertial dampeners were working overtime now. But Chen barely felt the acceleration. If not for her instruments, she might have been sitting in a parked aircraft. Control, I'm going to push it further. Prometheus. We're already so far beyond the test parameters. The aircraft is handling it perfectly. I want to see what she can really do. Chen pushed the throttle forward. The quantum field intensified, and suddenly she was flying through a tunnel of light. The air around the F-47 had become plasma, but the metamaterial hull channeled the energy harmlessly away. Mach 80. Mach 90. Her instruments began to flicker. The electromagnetic interference was overwhelming the aircraft's electronics, but Chen could still feel the F-47 responding to her commands, still feel the perfect balance between speed and control. Mach 100. Control, I've lost most of my instruments, but the aircraft is still responding normally. Silence. Then, Prometheus, we've lost telemetry. We can track you on radar, but we can't read your instruments from here. Chen looked at the few displays still functioning. Speed reading. Mach 127 and still climbing. It seemed impossible, but the numbers were there. Control, I'm reading Mach 127. Repeat, Mach 127. More static. When the voice returned, it sounded stunned. Prometheus. That can't be right. Nothing flies that fast in atmosphere. I'm going to throttle back now, Chen announced. She pulled the power setting to idle and felt the F-47 begin to slow. Even in deceleration, the aircraft remained perfectly stable. As the speed dropped below Mach 100, her instruments flickered back to life. The readings confirmed what she had felt. The F-47 had reached Mach 127 before she pulled back. Control, all systems returning to normal. Speed now Mach 60 and decreasing. Prometheus, return to base immediately. We need to examine every system on that aircraft. Chen guided the F-47 through a gentle turn toward the recovery platform. As the adrenaline faded, the magnitude of what had happened began to sink in. She had just flown nearly 3 times faster than the previous galactic record. In a human aircraft built from salvaged alien technology and human ingenuity, during the descent, she had time to think about what this meant. For 30 years, humanity had been the junior partner in the Galactic Federation. Always trying to catch up. Always a step behind. But in the space of one morning, that had changed. The F-47 touched down on the recovery platform with the same whisper-quiet grace it had shown during takeoff. As Chen powered down the systems, she realized she was grinning. Ground crew swarmed the aircraft as she climbed out. Webb was there, his face a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Well?" he asked. "Mach 127, Chen said simply. Webb staggered. "That's impossible. Tell that to the F-47. Chen looked back at the aircraft, its hull still warm from the flight. "Your ugly hybrid worked exactly like you said it would. Better, actually." As the technical teams began their post-flight examination, Chen walked to the edge of the platform and looked out over the Pacific. Somewhere beyond that horizon, alien species were going about their daily lives, secure in their technological superiority. They had no idea what was coming. The message reached the Zephyrian homeworld 3 days after Chen's flight. Ambassador Kyreth stood in the Grand Assembly, his silver skin rippling with colors that indicated deep distress. Around him, the other Zephyrian leaders maintained their composure, but their skin betrayed similar emotional turmoil. The humans claimed their primitive craft achieved Mach 127, Kyreth announced, his voice carrying across the crystal amphitheater. This must be some form of deception. Elder Varex, whose own piloting achievements were legendary among their people, stepped forward. "What evidence do they provide?" "Sensor recordings, telemetry data, and testimony from their pilot." Kyreth's skin shifted to deeper shades of purple. "Their Federation liaison insists the readings are accurate." The assembly fell silent. For 800 years, no atmospheric craft had come close to their record of Mach 47. The very idea that humans, newcomers who had barely mastered interplanetary travel, could achieve such speeds was unthinkable. "Demand verification," another elder called out. "Send our own observers." Meanwhile, on the crystalline consortium's data world of Hexacore, processing nodes throughout the planet's surface hummed with increased activity. The consortium's collective consciousness was running probability calculations at maximum capacity. The lead data node, designated Prime 9, interfaced directly with the Federation's information networks. The human test flight data flowed through crystalline pathways, analyzed by minds that thought in pure mathematics. Conclusion: human achievement probability 97.3%. Deception probability 2.7%. Implications: significant disruption to established technological hierarchy. Prime 9 shared its analysis with the other nodes. The response was immediate and concerning. If humans could achieve such advances by combining existing technologies in novel ways, what did that mean for species who had spent millennia perfecting single areas of expertise? On the trade world of Nexus Station, the news spread through merchant networks faster than official channels. The Voidwalkers, masters of exotic materials, clustered in their shadowy corner of the station's main concourse. Their leader, a being called Whisper of Stars, communicated through chemical signals that only other Voidwalkers could interpret. The sense told a story of confusion and opportunity. If humans could break the speed barrier so completely, perhaps other barriers were also less solid than everyone believed. But it was on Earth that the real implications became clear. Dr. Webb stood before a gathering of alien scientists in Geneva's Federation Science Complex. The assembled beings represented 12 different species, each masters of their particular field. "The breakthrough wasn't in our individual technologies," Webb explained, gesturing to a holographic display of the F-47's engine. "It was in how we combined them." Ambassador Kyreth, who had arrived that morning from the Zephyrian homeworld, leaned forward. His silver skin showed patterns of deep skepticism. "Your fusion technology is crude by our standards. How could such primitive systems enhance our quantum field manipulators?" Webb smiled. "Because crude doesn't mean ineffective. Your quantum systems assume perfect energy input. Smooth, consistent power flow. But our fusion ramjets are messy. They produce fluctuations, variations, irregularities." "Exactly," said Dr. Vex Prime, the crystalline representative, speaking through a translation device. "Why would you want unstable power? Because sometimes instability creates resonance. Your quantum fields were designed to work despite imperfect conditions. When we fed them deliberately chaotic energy patterns, they didn't just compensate, they amplified." The alien scientists exchanged glances. What Webb was describing went against thousands of years of engineering philosophy. Every species had learned to perfect their technologies by eliminating variables, reducing chaos, creating predictable systems, but humans had done the opposite. They had embraced chaos and found a way to make it useful. "This is theoretically interesting," Ambassador Kyrith said, his skin patterns showing forced calm. "But surely there are practical limitations. Your pilot pushed the system beyond safe parameters." Webb pulled up another display showing Chen's biometric data during the flight. Colonel Chen experienced less than 2 g of acceleration throughout the entire test. Our inertial dampening system kept her perfectly comfortable at speeds that should have liquefied any living being. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Thane, representing the insectoid hive mind collective. "Our best dampening systems barely handle Mach 20. Your dampening systems fight acceleration. Ours redirect it. We use the aircraft's quantum field to create a pocket of altered space-time around the pilot. Instead of canceling the force, we make it irrelevant." The room erupted in excited chittering, chemical signals, and electromagnetic bursts, as each species processed this information in their own way. Dr. Webb waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "For thousands of years, each of your species has perfected individual technologies. You're the best at what you do. There's no question about that, but you never thought to ask what happens when you combine the best from different species." "Because it's inefficient," Ambassador Kyrith protested. "Why use inferior human fusion technology when our antimatter systems are more powerful? Because sometimes inferior means compatible. Our fusion systems produce energy signatures that resonate with your quantum technology in ways pure antimatter never could. We're not better than you. We're different. And sometimes different is exactly what you need." Dr. Vex Prime's crystalline form shifted colors as massive calculations ran through its matrix. "You suggest that technological advancement requires hybridization?" Quote, "I suggest that maybe perfection isn't always the goal. Maybe good enough, combined with something else that's also good enough, creates something nobody expected." The implications hit the room like a shockwave. If humans were right, then the careful hierarchy of the Federation was built on a false assumption. Each species had been assigned their role based on their greatest strength, but nobody had considered what might happen if those strengths were combined. Ambassador Kyrith's skin patterns had shifted to deep red, a color that indicated fundamental disagreement with reality. "The Zephyrian Empire has maintained galactic peace through our technological superiority. If every species begins randomly combining technologies, then maybe we all get better at everything," Webb interrupted. "Maybe the kid who's mediocre at math and mediocre at art becomes the best architect in the galaxy." The meeting continued for hours. But the real conversation was happening in encrypted communications between homeworlds. The Zephyrian High Command was demanding immediate action. The Crystalline Consortium was running millions of simulations. The Voidwalkers were already experimenting with hybrid materials. And in a secure facility beneath Geneva, human engineers were working around the clock on new projects. If the F-47 had proven anything, it was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their willingness to try things that shouldn't work. 3 days later, the Galactic Federation Council received an unprecedented request from the Zephyrian Empire. They wanted to examine the F-47's technology immediately. claiming it posed a potential threat to galactic stability. The vote was scheduled for the following week, but across human space, more test flights were already being planned. The F-47 was just the beginning. 3 months after Chen's historic flight, President Martinez sat in the Situation Room, deep beneath Washington, watching the galaxy tear itself apart. On the main screen, Federation Council votes scrolled past in real time. The Zephyrian ultimatum had been submitted 2 weeks ago, and humanity had exactly 4 hours to respond. "Read it again," Martinez said quietly. Secretary of Defense Reeves cleared her throat. The Zephyrian Empire, speaking for the Galactic Federation Security Council, demands immediate disclosure of all technical specifications related to Earth's F-47 aircraft. Failure to comply within 30 days will result in economic sanctions, suspension of Federation membership, and potential military intervention. General Morrison leaned forward. "Madame President, our intelligence suggests they're not bluffing about the military intervention. The Zephyrian Third Fleet has been conducting exercises just outside our territorial space for the past week." On another screen, tactical displays showed the alien fleet. 16 of the most advanced interceptors in the galaxy, each capable of Mach 47, and armed with weapons that could crack a moon. Until recently, they had been untouchable. "What's the status of our production run?" Martinez asked. Dr. Webb, looking exhausted from months of non-stop work, activated his tablet. "We've completed 12 F-47 variants, 8 atmospheric fighters, 3 space interceptors, and 1 long-range reconnaissance craft, all incorporating the hybrid propulsion system, but with different optimizations. And our pilots?" Colonel Chen, now wearing the insignia of Earth's Advanced Fighter Command, spoke up. "We've trained 16 pilots on the new systems. It's not easy. Flying at these speeds requires completely different thinking, but they're ready." Martinez nodded slowly. The numbers were sobering. 16 fighters against the combined military might of species that had been conquering star systems when humanity was still discovering fire. But the F-47 had proven that sometimes numbers mattered less than capability. "Intelligence report on Federation response?" Martinez looked toward Director Hayes of the CIA. Hayes pulled up classified briefings. "It's complicated, Madam President. The established powers, Zephyrians, Crystalline Consortium, the hegemony worlds, are demanding we share everything, but the younger species are taking a different view." The display showed communication intercepts from across the galaxy. The Tau Collective, relative newcomers like humanity, had publicly supported Earth's right to technological independence. The Frontier Worlds Alliance had gone further, calling the ultimatum an abuse of Federation authority. "They're realizing," Webb explained, "that if we can be forced to hand over our innovations, so can they. Nobody wants to set that precedent." "What about compromise?" Martinez asked. "Controlled technology sharing? Joint research programs?" Chen shook her head. "The Zephyrians aren't interested in compromise. Their entire culture is built around being the fastest, the most advanced. If a human pilot in a cobbled-together fighter can make their best interceptor look slow, what does that do to their identity?" Through encrypted channels, humanity had been receiving private communications from various Federation members. The messages painted a picture of an alliance system in chaos. Species that had maintained careful technological boundaries for millennia were suddenly questioning everything. On the trade world of Nexus Station, Voidwalker engineers had begun experimenting with hybrid materials, combining their exotic matter techniques with crystalline computational matrices. The results were showing promise that neither species had achieved alone. The Tau Collective had quietly approached Earth about joint development programs. Their binaural computing systems, when combined with human mechanical engineering, were producing processing speeds that amazed even the crystallines. But every breakthrough made the situation more unstable. The established order was cracking, and the older species knew it. "Madam President," Director Hayes continued, "we've intercepted communications suggesting the Zephyrians are planning more than economic sanctions. They believe that seizing our technology by force will send a message to other species about the dangers of unsanctioned innovation." Martinez studied the tactical display again. The Zephyrian fleet was impressive, but it represented old thinking. Perfectly optimized ships designed to dominate through superior individual capability. They had never faced an opponent who could outrun them. Colonel Chen, honest assessment. If they come for us, can we stop them? Chen was quiet for a long moment. In a straight fight, no ma'am. 16 fighters against their entire fleet? They'd overwhelm us through sheer numbers. But, they're thinking like Zephyrians. Perfect formations, elegant tactics, predictable strategies. They've never fought humans before. Unrivers. General Morrison activated another display showing human military doctrine. Unlike the rigid hierarchies favored by most Federation species, human tactics emphasized flexibility, improvisation, and controlled chaos. Every other species fights the way they think, Morrison explained. Precise, orderly, logical. But human pilots are trained to be unpredictable. We don't just win through superior technology. We win by doing things the enemy can't anticipate. Webb added, the F-47 variants aren't just faster than their ships. They're designed around human piloting style, extreme maneuverability, rapid configuration changes, systems that can be modified in real time during combat. It's everything the Zephyrians consider inefficient. President Martinez stood and walked to the window, looking out over Washington. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue sky, alien fleets were preparing for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy's power structure. Our response to the ultimatum? She asked. Reeves had prepared the document weeks ago. We offer full technological exchange with all Federation members. Not just our innovations, but our research methodology. We propose establishing joint development centers where different species can collaborate on hybrid technologies. And if they refuse, then we make it clear that humanity will defend its right to scientific independence. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. For the first time since joining the Federation, humanity was prepared to fight for its principles. Timeline for their response. Martinez returned to her seat. The Zephyrian fleet could reach Earth in 6 days if they decide to move, Morrison reported. But they'll likely test us first. Probe our defenses. Try to gauge our capabilities. Chen's communicator buzzed with an encrypted message. She read it quickly, then looked up with an expression of grim satisfaction. What is it, Colonel? Martinez asked. Intelligence from our sources near the Zephyrian fleet. They've been running simulations of combat against the F-47 based on our test flight data. Results. Every simulation ends the same way. They can't catch us. Their perfect formations, their elegant tactics, their superior firepower. None of it matters if they can't hit us. Martinez felt a strange mixture of pride and terror. Humanity was about to face the greatest military force in the galaxy. And their primary advantage was the same thing that had gotten them into trouble throughout history. Their refusal to do things the proper way. Send our response to the Federation Council, she decided. And? Colonel? Colonel. Yes, ma'am. Get your pilots ready. One way or another, we're about to find out if human stubbornness is enough to change the galaxy. As the meeting broke up, Chen remained behind to study the tactical displays. In 6 days, she would either be leading humanity's fighter wing in a glorious victory that established Earth as a true galactic power, or she would be making humanity's last stand against impossible odds. Either way, it would be the most human thing imaginable. Fighting for principles, even when logic suggested surrender. Colonel Chen strapped herself into the F-47 Prometheus II as Earth's sun crested the horizon. Around her, 15 other pilots were conducting their final pre-flight checks. In 12 hours, the Zephyrian ultimatum would expire. The alien fleet had spent the past week moving steadily toward Earth, their intentions crystal clear. All pilots, this is control. Zephyrian fleet is holding position at the edge of our system. 16 interceptors in perfect formation, just like our intelligence predicted. Chen activated her comm system. Copy, control. Alpha Squadron, ready for launch. The F-47 variants lifted off from hidden bases across Earth's surface. Not the single massive launch that most species would have attempted, but scattered takeoffs from facilities the aliens didn't know existed. Already, humanity was fighting the war differently. As Chen climbed through Earth's atmosphere, her tactical display showed the enemy fleet. The Zephyrians had arranged themselves in a classic battle formation, a sphere of overlapping fire arcs that would destroy any force foolish enough to approach directly. It was elegant, efficient, and completely predictable. All units, this is Chen. Remember your training. These pilots have been flying the same way for 800 years. Perfect formations. Textbook tactics. No improvisation. Make them react to us, not the other way around. Lieutenant Torres, flying the F-47 Banshee, was the first to engage. Instead of approaching the fleet head-on, she came at them from below at an impossible angle, using the F-47's hybrid propulsion to pull maneuvers that should have torn her aircraft apart. The Zephyrian formation shifted to track her, their weapons systems trying to lock onto a target moving at Mach 89 inches, a corkscrew pattern. Their shots went wide as Taurus spiraled through their formation and out the other side, untouched. Banshee to all units. They're fast, but they can't change direction worth a damn. Their ships are built for straight-line speed, Chen smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had optimized everything for maximum velocity, in perfect conditions. But space combat wasn't perfect conditions, and human pilots had learned long ago that survivability mattered more than theoretical superiority. Delta Squadron. Begin harassment pattern 7. Keep them guessing. 4 F-47 seconds approached from different vectors, each one flying erratically. The human pilots used every trick in the book. Sudden direction changes, unpredictable acceleration patterns, even deliberately inducing system glitches that would confuse enemy targeting computers. The Zephyrian fleet commander, Admiral Vorthek, found himself facing a tactical nightmare. His perfectly coordinated formation was designed to destroy enemies who behaved rationally, but these human pilots seemed determined to do everything wrong. All ships, maintain formation discipline, he ordered. Their chaotic tactics will lead to their destruction. But as the minutes passed, not a single human aircraft had been hit. Worse, the Zephyrian formation was beginning to lose cohesion as individual pilots tried to track targets that refused to fly in straight lines. Chen decided it was time to escalate. All units, pattern Omega. Let's show them what we've really been building. Across the battlefield, F-47 seconds began revealing capabilities the Zephyrians hadn't suspected. The space interceptors deployed quantum field manipulators that created gravitational anomalies, pulling Zephyrian ships out of formation. The reconnaissance craft used advanced stealth systems to appear and disappear from sensor nets, striking from unexpected directions. But it was the atmospheric fighters that provided the real shock. These aircraft, never designed for space combat, were performing better than purpose-built interceptors. Their hybrid systems allowed them to accelerate and maneuver in ways that violated everything the Zephyrians knew about spaceflight. Admiral, one of his pilots reported, "We cannot maintain target locks. Their ships are exceeding Mach 100 while performing 90-degree turns." Admiral Vorthek watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos. Individual Zephyrian pilots were breaking ranks, trying to pursue human fighters that led them into traps or simply outran them completely. And then Chen executed the masterstroke. All units, converge on my position. Time for the finale. 16 F-47 seconds gathered in a loose formation directly in front of the Zephyrian fleet. For a moment, Admiral Vorthek thought the humans were finally going to fight properly. A head-to-head engagement between disciplined formations. Instead, every human fighter suddenly accelerated to maximum speed and scattered in 16 different directions, each one trailing plasma fire and sensor ghosts. The visual effect was stunning, like a firework exploding in the heart of his fleet. But the real purpose became clear seconds later. In trying to track 16 targets moving at relativistic speeds in random directions, the Zephyrian targeting systems overloaded. Weapons locks failed, formation coordination collapsed, and in the confusion, several Zephyrian ships nearly collided with each other. Enough. Admiral Vorthek's transmission came through on all frequencies. Human fleet. This is Admiral Vorthek of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. I request immediate ceasefire for negotiations. Chen brought the F-47 to a hover directly in front of the Admiral's flagship, a maneuver that should have been impossible at their current velocity. This is Colonel Chen. I'm listening, Admiral. Your tactical capabilities are unexpected. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach to this situation. What followed was unlike any negotiation in galactic history. Instead of formal diplomatic channels, the conversation took place between pilots in the middle of a battlefield, with mutual respect replacing the usual political posturing. Admiral, Chen said, we never wanted to fight you. We just want to develop technology our own way. Your way appears to be extremely effective. Vorthek's tone carried a grudging admiration. But surely you understand our concerns. If every species begins combining technologies unpredictably, then maybe everyone gets better at everything. Maybe instead of each species being stuck in their specialty, we all learn from each other. Chen transmitted a data package to the Zephyrian flagship. It contained complete specifications for the F-47's hybrid propulsion system, but also something else. Detailed proposals for collaborative research programs. Admiral, what if your quantum field technology was combined with crystalline processing power? What if Voidwalker materials were enhanced with Tau collective bioengineering? What if every species contributed their best ideas and everyone benefited? Admiral Vorthek studied the proposals in silence. Around him, his fleet waited for orders. Around Chen, her pilots continued their random patrol patterns, ready to resume combat at a moment's notice. Finally, the Admiral spoke. You propose to share your most advanced technology freely? We propose to share our approach to technology. Take what works, combine it with what you have, make something new. That's what humans do. We're mongrels who steal the best ideas from everyone and mash them together until something useful emerges. The response came not from Admiral Vorthek, but from across the galaxy. The Tau Collective had been monitoring the engagement and transmitted their support for Chen's proposal. The Crystalline Consortium followed minutes later. Even the Voidwalkers, through their mysterious communication methods, indicated agreement. By the time Admiral Vorthek transmitted his fleet's withdrawal, the foundation for a new galactic order had already been laid. 6 months later, Chen stood in the observation deck of the first Terra Protocol research station. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the impossible sight of Zephyrian, crystalline, and human engineers working side by side on hybrid spacecraft that incorporated the best innovations from all three species. The F-47 Prometheus III sat in the construction bay below, a craft that made her original fighter look primitive. Zephyrian quantum technology, enhanced by crystalline processing and powered by improved human fusion systems, all wrapped in Voidwalker metamaterials that could adapt to any environment. Dr. Webb joined her at the window. It's working better than we hoped. The Zephyrians are already developing interceptors that can hit Mach 200. The crystallines have processing systems that make their old computers look like pocket calculators. And us? Chen asked. Webb smiled. We're still the mongrels. Still taking a little from here, a little from there, still smashing things together until they work. But now, everyone's doing it. Chen nodded, watching a test pilot put the Prometheus III through its paces. The craft moved like liquid light, pulling maneuvers that would have been impossible before the Terra Protocols established the framework for true technological collaboration. Humanity had joined the Galactic Federation as the newcomer species, trying desperately to prove they belonged. They had ended up teaching the galaxy that belonging wasn't about being the best at one thing. It was about being willing to learn from everyone, and in the process, they had discovered their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their fundamental human refusal to accept that anything was impossible.